Hello, YouTube. Thanks for stopping by the Pick Six Podcast channel. Make sure and hit subscribe. Hit like if you're watching and turn on alert so you'll know when we go live. You'll have something sent directly to your mobile cellular telephone or whatever device you watch YouTube on. I just got mine on my celly, as Ryan Wilson likes to say. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Brinson. I'm your host. It is Friday, June 17th. If you're listening on the podcast, you're watching live on YouTube, it is Thursday, June 16th. Again, we go live every day at like 1 o'clock-ish. Come hang out with us, spend your lunch hour with us. You can chat with us. You can make fun of me. You make fun of Ryan Wilson sometimes. And today you could be making fun of John Breech, joining me to talk some QB battles as we grind our way through the offseason. Breech, what's up, buddy?
Brinson roped me in. I thought we were talking about kicker battles. I show up and it's QB battles. What is going on? You know what's funny, Brinson, is that you said today is Friday and you paused, and I was literally 80% sure you were going to say Friday the 13th because you had no idea what day it was, and you just thought that would sound nice. So good for you on knowing the date. I think that is the first time in 4 months you've gotten the date right. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Big step forward.
Sorry. Anyway, yeah, cool. What's going on?
You know, everything. Kind of got a sore voice, so if I
how'd you go
have to carry the
you sick?
No, recovering from the kid getting me. You know, like kids have all these diseases.
You got a hangover, Breech?
And then you have to, your immune system is not ready to deal with what kids. My 2-year-old went to a camp and hanging around with other kids, and you know what happens. They get other kids sick, and then people have runny noses, and then it's just insane. That's all.
Yeah, it's the worst.
You have a kid, you know what it's like.
Yeah, they get it's a little bit less transmission-y as they get a little bit older, I think.
That's good.
Yeah. Like when you're like Annabelle's age, you're a walking snot rocket.
This is absolutely true.
Like, you know, like Robbie doesn't get as like, it's like he's not as snotty. He doesn't get as sick quite as much because like the younger kids do. You know, he did have his first swim meet though. It's very exciting.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah, almost. If he hadn't got a little slow start on his on breast, did I talk about this yesterday already? Maybe I did. Devo, I don't know anymore.
No.
Oh, he almost won he could have won his heat and breaststroke, but I got a slow jump off of the gate because he had a goggle situation.
So now you got to work on jumping out of the blocks. That's the new.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. He actually got the best jump during freestyle, but breaststroke is his best stroke.
Did you swim at all as a kid or?
Yeah, I swam as a kid. I hated it. AK
that's what I was going to ask. Is something that AK pushed him into, or that he just decided he wanted to swim?
No, it's it's just he's like a decent swimmer. And like, we both did swim team as kids. I hated swim meets as kids. I was texting my dad and he was like, I was like, hey, check out these pictures of Robbie. And he's like, it takes me back to fun times. I was like, are you being serious? Because I hated that. Did you guys like that? Because I didn't like that. They're like, oh, really? You didn't like the swim meets? I was like, no. Sit around for like 6 hours the side of the pool to get my ass kicked in a race that I'm not good at. Like, no, I didn't like swim meets.
Brinson, don't take this as an insult, but you don't strike me as a swimmer.
I'm an okay swimmer.
This is where we started a debate about who would win a 100-meter butterfly.
I hate butterfly. Hate backstroke, hate butterfly. Decent breaststroke, decent freestyle. Who would win 100? Who would win a 100-meter IM?
Is that where you do all of them? 25 meters of 4 different ones?
Just one lap of each one.
Oh, I don't know. I would not bet on myself in any. I can swim, but I would not bet on myself in any swimming competition.
No, me either. I wonder if Wilson. I bet Wilson sucks at swimming.
He's either really good or really bad. There's no in between.
Yeah, it'd probably be a pretty disastrous attempt by all.
I could see him being secretly good though.
I don't think so. Maybe he Breech. Check Slack, buddy. Anyway. Let's talk about some quarterback positions. We don't need to make this a 50-minute podcast like yesterday's. Wilson and I somehow got in, like, spent 50 minutes talking about like Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray contracts. Just wildly unnecessary.
And Brinson also mentioned that the Panthers could be a fringe playoff team with Baker Mayfield.
Oh,
Do you remember that, Brinson? You did say that.
I did say that.
Panthers fans owe you an apology. They thought you were crapping all over their team 2 months ago. Now you're back on the bandwagon.
Speaking of fringe playoff teams, I'm just going to bring this up just because it just happened. I was doing radio on 106.7 The Fan with my buddy JP Finley on the Finley and B Mitch show, and he sort of like talked me into the Commanders being a fringe playoff team, which I was really surprised by. I did not see that coming. And he's like, he thinks they could, like ceiling 10-7, 9-8, but based on the offense being good. And I did not see that. Like, I did not see him talk, I think you could see a possible pathway where like Carson Wentz is efficient and doesn't make huge mistakes and is like better in, Scott Turner's, like, I think is a pretty good is a very good offensive coordinator actually. And they got weapons. JP actually thinks the defense could be the problem in Washington, which was very surprising to me.
Yes. I don't think that's crazy. Look, we were talking about teams that could surprise bad teams from last year. And I mentioned the Giants, and it's not because I necessarily think they're going to be awesome. It's just that you're the NFC East. You have a chance, and you're in the NFC. The 7th best team does not have to be good in the NFC. So you can be a bad team and make the playoffs. You could be an okay team and win the NFC East. So I think any team in that division, you could make an argument at least that they could get in the playoffs.
Yeah. I think the Giants is a little tough.
What?
I mean, they cut Bradbury, like James Bradbury. Like, they cut a guy that they could really use as a cornerback for future financial purposes. Like, anytime a team does that, to me, it screams, all right, we're okay if we lose a few games this year.
Yeah.
But anyway.
We didn't come here to talk about the NFC East, Brinson. Let's get back on track.
I know. I don't know why I just cannot stop myself. But we can't talk about the Giants.
That's true.
We did have the Giants on the list and the Commanders on the list, technically. So we'll start there. Quarterback battles, week 1. I don't think there's any question that Carson Wentz is starting week 1. Like, Ron Rivera, I was just looking at Pro Football Talk to make sure I didn't miss any. I had to run to Target and get some stuff, which, is just terrifying. I get in Target and just cannot find anything. But I had to run and get some stuff, and I was making sure I didn't miss anything. And Ron Rivera says, you can see confidence spreading from Carson Wentz to everybody else. Do you buy or sell? He said probably the biggest thing watching Carson is how he got acclimated to us. How he got more and more comfortable being around our guys, getting to know some of our guys, developing some rapport with some of our receivers, picking up our offensive scheme for the most part. Sometimes you really see the confidence in the things that he does very well, and you can see the confidence spreading to everybody else around him. So that was probably the biggest thing, really, to me, watching how he kind of fit in and was getting acclimated. Do you buy or sell that Carson Wentz is spreading confidence amongst the Washington football team? And do you think there's any question about him being the starter in week 1 of 2022?
Number 1, I sell. This is me doth protest too much. There's no way you're this high on Carson Wentz after only having a team for 2 months. It's just impossible. And so I think this is him trying to sell something that is unsellable at this point. I mean, you can't come out and say he's been terrible. You just say what you have to say as a coach in May and in June. It's all the talk, you always hear, hey, this guy's in the best shape of his life, or these are the best practices he's ever had. Everybody says that during OTAs and minicamp. That's just what you say. That's what coaches say about their quarterbacks. And
I'm almost never in the best shape of my life at this point in time.
No, never. This is like we've been
worst. Yeah, it's like I'm trying to get back into like decent shape at this point in time of the year.
And then you're lucky if you get even halfway there,
close by August or September, and
then it's all over,
gone. For a while, yeah. Anyway, sorry, keep going. But yeah, I agree with you. It's like, and remember, we also got that Albert Breer, and I'm not trying to, I'm not questioning Breer's, the content here because it's off season, and he has good connections with the Rivera regime, They're in Washington, and it's a big Carson Wentz is a big storyline. Like we're talking about it, but they're like, he went and met with Ron Rivera in the clear like story. And I thought actually reading it, Albert did a good job, like pointing out like, hey, look, like this could completely go south, and Carson could be toast. Like if he stinks this year for Washington, I don't know who would possibly consider getting him to start for them. But my point being is that like it was definitely like some fluff in there. The quotes from Ron Rivera, like Ron Rivera and his PR team are pushing the Carson like hype. It's like blatantly they're trying to hype up Carson Wentz, whether it's to give him confidence, whether it's to give his teammates confidence in him, whether it's to get people to back off so they don't like be like, oh, like this guy sucks. Remember, like I don't know what it I maybe it's all of those, but it's very clear. Like I agree with you completely. It is a definite like you're saying it a little too loudly, Ron. Everyone hears you say it.
And I totally agree with you. I think it's that first one to give Carson Wentz confidence. I think if we've learned one thing over the past 2 years is that he is not a guy who takes too kindly to criticism or competition. He did not get along with Nick Foles after Foles led them to the Super Bowl. But we saw last year where does not like being criticized. Jim Irsay clearly did not get along with Carson Wentz. And when you look, you asked who I thought would be the starter in week 1, and you said it's probably going to be Carson Wentz. And I absolutely agree with that. I don't think there's any, unless Carson Wentz gets injured. And even Taylor Heineke was asked about that this week. And he was asked if he had a chance to unseat Wentz as the starter. And he said, quote, I don't think that's an option. You look at the NFL, and at the end of the day, it's kind of a business. And if you're paying someone $30 million and you're paying someone else $2 million, you're paying this guy $30 million to play, unquote. So that's Heineke knows he's not playing. Even he knows the competition's fixed. Even if he outplayed Carson Wentz in training camp, the Commanders are going into week 1 with Carson Wentz. If Carson Wentz tanks the first 4 or 5 weeks, maybe they turn to Taylor Heineke. But there's no way Carson Wentz is not going to be on the field in week 1 unless he gets injured.
Agreed completely. If you gave up too much, like good on Taylor Heineke, by the way, for like saying, like being like honest about it, like, cause a lot of guys would go in and say, yeah, of course it's a competition. Like we're going to do it. But I think Ron Rivera's told him and Sam Howell, but it was like, oh, they drafted Sam Howell. Is that trouble for it's a 5th round pick. Settle down, everyone. Like it would take Sam Howell. Like what if Sam Howell looked like Russell Wilson, rookie Russell Wilson in minicamp? Or like in training camp in the offseason, they'd still have to go with Carson Wentz, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And that's an interesting point, though.
Yeah, like it would have to be like an epic offseason performance by Sam Howell to unseat Carson Wentz, I think.
Because remember, I was a Seahawks Rapid reporter in 2012 during the whole thing. So I had my eyes closely on the Seahawks that year. And Pete Carroll, they refused to give Russell Wilson a chance to win the starting job. It took until the 3rd or 4th week of the preseason and until they were like, you know what, this guy probably is better than Matt Flynn. And so they had just given Matt Flynn that huge contract. Russell Wilson was a 3rd round pick. And it was like Wilson, they threw him out there in the first preseason game. He looked good. It was like, it was against a bunch of backups. Who cares? Second preseason game looks even better. And then I'm like, he looks okay, but Matt Flynn's still the starter. He's still taking all the first team reps. 3rd preseason game against other starters, again, crushes it. And by then you could tell the Seahawks were like, oh, we screwed this up. Wilson should have been taking all the first team reps the entire camp. And so that's what you do when you let a rookie look awesome, is that they don't get the reps they need,
right?
Even if they outplay the starter. So I do think, again, that puts Carson Wentz as the starter in week 1. And if Sam Howell looks awesome, maybe you put him as the starter week 4, week 5 if Wentz is struggling.
And also worth noting, like Russell Wilson played 3 years at NC State, started 11, 12, 13 games, and then transferred to Wisconsin and was incredible at Wisconsin, over 10 yards per pass attempt. Sam Howell played, was a starter at Carolina for 3 years. Actually had a season where he was 10 yards per pass attempt, but like, I don't think they're very comparable in terms of like the kind of prospect they were coming out. Russell just fell because he was short, anyway. So yeah, Carson Wentz starting week 1, barring something shocking. Ryan Peacock in the chat asking, is this a replay? That would be a shocking revelation to me, Ryan, because that would mean that my life is a replay because this is live. Wouldn't that be weird if you were like all of a sudden it's like,
Can we talk about the Commanders quarterback battle?
it's like whoa, 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 whoa. Like I'm
Brian
all,
would say we're in a simulation.
we're living in a podcast simulation, which like wouldn't be that crazy, I guess.
There's a 50% chance that's happening anyway. So
I know. I mean, with each new bizarre twist of life, there's a very good chance we're living in a simulation. Yeah, Anthony in the chat says I think it would be a shocking revelation to Ryan too if this is a replay.
And real quick on that Russell Wilson thing, the Seahawks announced him as the opening day starter on August 26th. Their first game was on September 9th. So it took all through August before they were ready to admit that they were going to give him the job over Matt Flynn.
We don't have the capability of finding articles from 2012, but I'm pretty sure I wrote like several times that Russell Wilson should be the starter and that he would lead them to the playoffs. Because you just don't have. We don't. None of these. Oh. Huh. Oh, I found one where I wrote about Russell Wilson has not forgotten about your 2012 draft grades. Trying to find like a 2012 article about Russell Wilson, but I can't.
I found one.
Did I write anything?
It's from Katzwitz. Josh Katzwitz.
Yes.
Those of you.
Oh, October 15th, 2012. Sorting the Sunday pile. Russell Wilson finally unleashed. Yeah, baby. How about that? Me talking about Russ.
I found.
I forgot Steve Keim. Steve Keim also he still regrets his quote chicken bleep call not to take Russell Wilson because he NC State guy. Anyway, what was that one? Oof. Wait, did I write that? Who wrote that?
No, that's just when I was looking for one of our older articles. I saw that from Bleacher Report.
Oh no, JLC! Ouch, baby, ouch. The Seahawks need to bench Russell and start Matt Flynn soon. That take doesn't hold up very well. God, there's nothing worse than like Googling for an article and finding something that you did, like some terrible take that you wrote and realizing like that you're just in pure hell.
Did you see the people in chat making fun of you?
Yeah, the last article I wrote was 2012. That's probably right.
That's hilarious.
Oh, that's dunk-worthy. Speaking of the Seahawks, they're actually at the top of this list, really, because Seattle has a very confusing quarterback situation. They have Geno Smith. They have Drew Lock. They do not have Russell Wilson for the first time since 2011. They also have Jacob Eason on the roster. Geno Smith is listed. Let me see if I can get Seahawks.com. He's listed on Ourlads as the first string quarterback. Or that's not official, I don't think. The Seahawks depth chart is not up on the website.
Well, Pete Carroll did say earlier during OTAs that Geno Smith was the leader in the clubhouse right now, but that, you're not doing much during OTAs.
Yeah, and I mean, that makes sense because he's been on the team and Drew Lock was traded. So you don't want to like hand Drew Lock the job since you don't really know anything about Drew Lock, and you do like Geno Smith started games for you last year. Who do you think will win that battle ultimately, Drew Lock or Geno Smith?
You know what's crazy is that Geno Smith actually looked decent when Russell Wilson was out last season. He's got an understanding of what the Seahawks offense is, what it does, what Pete Carroll wants to do, which is run the ball 75% of the time. And I know they traded for Drew Lock, but man, if I had to put a percentage on it right now, I'd go 55-45 in favor of Geno Smith.
I think that's a good number. I mean, I hate to agree with you. Like just, yep, you're right. But I think that consider how Pete Carroll operates. Like he likes the safety net, the safety valve of being able to like run the ball To me, the Seahawks are going to, if you look at, all right, so look at the 2011 Seahawks, right? I actually have that bookmarked for some reason. And Molly P, local radio says Locke is taking second team snaps. So there you go. I assume that's KJR. Oh, crap. I meant to text somebody back at KJR. If you look at the Seahawks, they were in 2011, 23rd in points scored, 20.1 per game. In 2010, 23rd in points scored per game, 19.4. They were 25th in points allowed, 25.4. Went 7-9. Actually won the NFC West and made the playoffs at 7-9, which is just hilarious. I don't think Pete Carroll wants to go 7-9 or 8-9 or even 7-10 for sure. I think he wants to go like 10-7 or 9-8. I think that's his goal. I don't think he expects to go like 13-3. I think he wants to have the most boring, bland offense on the planet, that where they run the ball, grind the clock into a pile of dust, and just try to win some of these really close games by not making mistakes. And while Drew Lock definitely has more upside than Geno Smith, Geno is the veteran who you feel like you can trust to not do something crazy outside of the scope of what you want your offense to be.
Do you feel better or worse if you're Pete Carroll? Are you more inclined or less inclined to start Drew Lock because they play the Broncos in week 1? Maybe Drew Lock
more inclined
knows that defense, or
I'm more inclined to give Drew Lock a chance at like revenge. But I think Pete Carroll is probably less inclined to give him a chance to like aggressively get revenge against his whole team, because I think he wants to pound the football. Like he was like 20. If he wins 10 games, 20-17, he doesn't care what you think about his offense.
7-2.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he cares. Like if his defense can play well enough to slow teams down, and I don't know that they can. Like I think that's the bigger concern for me, is that he wants to do this, and they drafted Kenneth Walker with a 2nd round pick. They still have Rashad Penny who they brought back. We don't know what Chris Carson's deal is, but like Kenneth Walker and Rashad Penny, if they're healthy, could be a good running back tandem. Especially with Charles Cross, considered I think more of a pass blocker, elite pass blocker, but certainly he can be good in the run game. I mean, that's like what they did this offseason leads you to believe that that's what their offense will be, and that they think their defense can be good enough to slow some teams down. So, I mean, I don't know if I buy it, but to me, that's just what the Seahawks plan is going to be.
Yeah, this is just.
It does. It's not like it's because I keep being asked. It's like, what do you think the Seahawks are? What do you think the Seahawks plan is? And I think I figured it out. Like that's their plan. Is it a good plan? No. Is it a fun plan? No.
What do you think the odds are that their starting quarterback for week 1 isn't on the roster right now?
Not very good. I think they're going to go with Geno.
Or
if Drew Lock can beat him out, then they'll go with Drew Lock. But
what if Baker gets cut?
I think Baker's going to get traded to Carolina.
What?
I saw our pals at the Around the NFL podcast. It did like quarterback rankings, and they like to put out a consensus list on Instagram or something like that. It's like, like the Panthers the Panthers' current quarterback, starting quarterback Sam Darnold, was ranked below both of the Seahawks quarterbacks. So like, I mean, you have to go get Baker if you're the Panthers, I think.
Yeah. I mean, but is Baker a bigger step up for the Seahawks or the Panthers? That's the question.
Panthers. The drop off from Baker to Sam Darnold is a lot bigger, I think, than the drop off from Baker to Geno or Drew Lock. Devo, did you want to say something? Happen to unmute yourself.
No.
Okay. I thought you might have a Baker take or something.
No takes.
Baker take.
Okay.
I think you're wrong on that last take, but
okay, you clearly did want to say something.
Whoa.
You think it's a bigger? You think
he came on just to blow up Brinson?
No.
God.
Wilson just called me and he said, I think Geno's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL.
Oh! He does.
That does sound like Wilson would say.
He did say he would take Geno Smith over Carson Wentz, which is just outrageous.
Outrageous.
It's pretty outrageous. The Seahawks would sign for Carson Wentz like they would if they just could trade Geno for Carson Wentz. They'd do that in a heartbeat right now.
You think so?
Yes, if it didn't cost anything.
Carson Wentz for Geno Smith straight up. You think the Seahawks do that in a second?
Yes. Devo, help me here.
I mean, yeah, it's just funny because Breech was on my team, and the season in Indy just really, really did not go well for the perception of Carson Wentz and
really like just week 18, week 17, week 18, week 18,
week 18. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he just doesn't pee down his leg against the Jaguars. It probably, probably still in Indianapolis.
When I leave this podcast, as we briefly discussed yesterday, do you think the Carson Wentz references will go down per episode? Because right now, I think no matter what, we're at 3.5 per episode, even when we're not talking quarterbacks or anything.
3.5 per episode. I can't envision a scenario where Carson Wentz references go down.
Yeah, not going down.
Yeah.
If anything, it's going to go up because we don't knock him as out of respect to you, Devo.
I feel like Matt Nagy references and Bears references went way up when Sean left.
Like we wanted to talk about him, or like what?
Like you just went out of your way, I think, to make fun of and poke fun of more after Sean departed the show / was fired.
I mean, when are you going to admit that you're getting fired?
Can't believe Devo's getting fired.
Did you know that Devo was leaving the podcast?
When? I mean, I did know that. I knew we were hiring a new producer for this podcast.
Have you hired the new producer? It'd be nice if we were in on anything.
Devo, wait, when are you done?
I'll be here forever.
Yeah, I know.
Did Brinson drive you out? Is that what happened?
I think you know the answer to that.
I can't answer in a public forum.
Can't say that publicly. It'd be an HR violation to accuse me of driving him out of the podcast. I mean, look, do we have a new person? I love that we just have no problem doing this on live on air. Hey, do we hire somebody else?
Oh my God.
I think we should limit the conversation at this point.
Oh, just HR violations flying left and right. I love it. All right, let's take a break and when we come back, more quarterback battle talk.
Can I help you?
We'd like to buy 8,000 windfall tickets.
I'm going to help you first.
I found this loophole that the lottery didn't see.
Do you think we're the only ones who know?
We run a betting club at school. You had a good run, but it's over.
You're really going to let a college kid take all this away from you?
Look at you guys. It's like, oh.
You're welcome to take something for the road. Maybe a juice box.
Jerry and Marge Go Large. Rated PG-13. Now streaming on Paramount Plus.
Oh, man. All right, so I just can't watch these Paramount commercials and not talk about them. Not because I'm trying to be a company man. If you're listening to the audio show, we have YouTube actual commercials that we run. Most of them are Paramount Plus, because we work for Paramount, CBS, etc. We had a Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic 2 commercial, which was really cool. I got to tell Robbie about that. But Jerry and Marge Go Large, this new Bryan Cranston movie that's streaming. Have you read the story that it's based on? It's insane.
It's lottery related. I know that. They
found a loophole where they can basically just win the lottery over and over again. I read it was a long read a couple of years ago, and now there's a movie, and you can stream it now on Paramount Plus, which is what I'm going to do this evening because I love Bryan Cranston and I'm excited about streaming it on Paramount Plus. You should go to ParamountPlus.com and sign up for free. You probably get a free trial and watch it yourself tonight if you're listening or watching. If you do, enjoy it. Write Brinson in the promo code and see what happens. Spoiler: nothing.
What?
Steelers are a really interesting team for the week 1 quarterback position because they decided to Mitchell Trubisky. They signed Mitchell Trubisky in free agency, just like the Bears signed Mike Glennon. And then they drafted Kenny Pickett in the first round, just like the Bears drafted Mitchell Trubisky in the first round. So how do you think this plays out for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Breech?
I do not think that Kenny Pickett is going to be the starter. I think that they signed Mitchell Trubisky. They're going to let Mitchell Trubisky have the job unless Kenny Pickett is 10 times better. And they're going to say, Mitch, we're going to let you try and take us to the promised land in 2022. And if you can't do it, if you're bad, we'll go with Kenny Pickett next year. But if you're good, if you win 10 or 11 games, then guess what? You're going to be our starter next year. And we don't care about Kenny Pickett because we're going to be Mitchell Trubisky's team. So I would be shocked if Trubisky is not at least the week 1 starter.
I mean, again, I'm not trying to just agree with Breech here.
This is getting ridiculous. We don't ever.
I mean, like it's very like when you go out and sign a veteran, like a veteran on his 3rd team, looking for a redemption. There's a ton of like the Mitchell Trubisky hype last year. It's like, oh, like he's just learned so much in Buffalo, really developed as a person and as a player, and he's ready to take another shot at being a starter. And like he did some really dumb stuff, but he had some really good games too. I mean, I thought you saw some stuff from Mitchell Trubisky where you're like, all right, this guy could be good. And, when you factor in what we got from, Matt Nagy with Justin Fields, it's like very clear that the offenses in Chicago were just never catered to the quarterback. I don't know that Matt Canada was necessarily the guy who's going to do that, but I mean, he loves to use motion. He loves, I think he'll use a bunch of bootlegs. I think he'll do some stuff I think his offensive system will cater a little bit more to Trubisky's skill set. And I don't think the Steelers promised Trubisky he'll be the starter, but I do expect that they will give him a chance. Like, I think he has to lose the job to Kenny Pickett, or Kenny Pickett just has to be incredible and take the job. Or he has to play really poorly over the first few games of the season. Like, I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think the Steelers and Mike Tomlin want to go with Pickett out of the gate unless they just simply have to. Like if they have no choice, I think they'll go Pickett, no problem. But they start at Cincinnati, New England at home, and at Cleveland. So you have 2 divisional games against. I mean, I think. Cincy and Cleveland have pretty tough defenses. I mean, at the very least, like problematic pass rushers. And you're Belichick in week 2. That is not exactly, and that week 3 game in Cleveland is that Thursday night game on Amazon Prime. That is not exactly a 3-game stretch where I would want to be starting a rookie who had a ton of fumbles in college.
You're facing 2 of the NFL's top 5 sack guys from 2021.
And then Myles Garrett.
And then, like you said, Belichick is a wizard.
Destroys young quarterbacks.
Belichick versus a rookie is absolutely unfair. Rookies are, except for Davis Mills with that crazy game while I was with the Texans. He's literally the only guy.
I think Russ and Deshaun Watson had good-ish games, but they still lost.
And we're talking about the best of the best there. And so, yeah, you don't want Kenny Pickett just having his mind and heart broken by Belichick in week 2, the second game of his career. So, yeah, I mean, that just feels like you start Trubisky the first 3 weeks, and then you see how things are going. I think you even say, Mitch, the job is yours till the bye, and we'll reevaluate then.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if it's the bye. I think it's like, let's see what happens those first 3 weeks. Because of look, you were at Cincinnati in a divisional game against the defending AFC champions. You were hosting Bill Belichick and the Patriots. And then you were at Cleveland, where we don't know if Deshaun Watson's going to play or not. Like, it would not be unreasonable for the Steelers to start 0-3, and then you just have to pull the ripcord and go with Kenny Pickett against the Jets at home in week 4, which is even 1-2. If Trubisky's playing poorly, I think you could go to Pickett in week 4.
But if you go to Pickett in week 4, after that Jets game, you have the Bills, you have the Buccaneers. And you don't want Kenny Pickett to just beat the Jets and then lose.
Yeah, you have 3 or 4 road games at Buffalo, Tampa at home, at Miami, at Philly.
I mean, like you said, unless Kenny Pickett just wows them or Trubisky does something to lose the job, you go with the mindset that, hey, this is Mitchell Trubisky's job for this year.
If they're 0-3, it would not be surprising. And if they're 0-3 because Trubisky's playing poorly, like the defense is playing well, but the offense can't do anything, and Trubisky's, missing receivers and can't throw left, etc. I don't think it's crazy to suggest that they go with Pickett in week 4. But I think your point about that 4-game stretch after the Jets is very, very valid.
Yeah, and I think that if you're the Steelers, if you're Mike Tomlin, you can even tell Trubisky that, look, man, you're going to have a short leash. We're going to make you the starter. And if we get off to an ugly start, you're not going to be the starter anymore. So
in that stretch after the bye, you get the Saints at home and the Bengals at home. So you would have back-to-back home games. One is a Sunday night game against Cincy on November 20th. But like, you're not doing a ton of traveling like you are, and again, Kenny Pickett is very familiar with the facilities because he played college football there. Then at Indy on a Monday night. So back-to-back primetime games for the Rook, if that's when it happens. But then you have at Atlanta, Baltimore at home, at Carolina, Raiders at home. That is a pretty, like, as far as the Steelers' schedule as a whole goes, that's probably the easiest stretch. Obviously, Baltimore at home is not easy, of course, and New Orleans and Cincy, at home could have good defenses. But, if you're getting Carolina and Atlanta in any stretch and, a slew of home games, I think that's a pretty good setup.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean,
you would set the over-under at
the bye.
8.5 starts for Mitchell Trubisky.
Yes.
Okay.
And I would take the over. So maybe 10. Let's go to 10.
Well, you would say
the bye's week 9, but
so you would actually set it at 7.5 and take the over, I think is what you would do.
No, I would set it at
you would need to get one. You would
bye
need
is week 9, so the over under would be 9 starts.
I guess it's over
or
under
8.5.
Over under 8. Oh,
8.5.
okay. Right, so 8.5, and you would take the over because you think Trubisky will still.
Or
start.
no, it would be 9.5. Do you think he'll start one game after the bye?
Which is 8.5.
Yes.
Yeah, it would be 8.5. Do you think he still starts after the bye?
Yes.
And if you take the under, you think he gets benched at the bye?
Right.
Yeah, that's probably right.
There we go. That's why we're not odd.
So you would take the under. You would take the over of 8.5.
Yes. I think he's going to start the whole season. I just feel like the Steelers are going to be better than people think, which I know sounds crazy, especially because I'm an absolute Bengals homer and I should be talking trash about the Steelers, but I think they're going to surprise people. There's no expectations for them this year. There's no pressure on them. And look, all Trubisky has to do is play slightly more competent football than Ben Roethlisberger did last year, which shouldn't be that difficult because 2022 Ben Roethlisberger wasn't that good. And so I think Trubisky can be at least that or a little bit better.
Entirely possible. I believe that I'm trying to find the I thought that the Athletic wrote, I think it's Mark Kabuli wrote that the Trubisky has a quote significant head start, and the competition between him, Mason Rudolph, and Kenny Pickett will be more for show, end quote, than an actual competition. So in other words, it seems like Trubisky's going to be the guy in week 1. All right. So now we are dragging this podcast into lengthy territory somehow. Panthers, week 1. Is it Sam Darnold or is it Baker Mayfield? Because I don't think it's going to be Matt Corral, but it could be.
I'm going to say Darnold. I just feel like the Panthers and Browns have had so much time to get something worked out. Anything. Like if you're the Panthers, ideally you get this trade done before the draft so you don't have to spend a pick on Matt Corral. But you didn't. You couldn't get a trade done. Then you want to get a trade done before OTAs and minicamp are over so that you can get Baker Mayfield in there and at least get him a playbook so he can study it while he's gone. No, you didn't do that. So it just seems like this feels like a trade maybe not destined to get done. So okay. I'm going to say Sam Darnold.
I'll say, what odds would you give me on Baker being the starting quarterback week 1 for the Panthers?
I mean, not plus 110.
What?
Yeah, it's not a long shot. It's not a long shot.
Like how about 3-1?
No, never.
For Baker?
What odds would you give me on Darnold being a starter?
I think Darnold's minus 150 right now.
Yeah, so the odds on Baker aren't going to be plus 300.
He's not even on the team. I don't even think a trade is like plus.
I'll give you plus 190.
All right, I would bet that.
Okay.
2-1, I would bet Baker because I think the Panthers. I think David Tepper is gonna like wake up one day and realize that he's got Sam Darnold as his week 1 starter and just panic and tell his GM to just do whatever he needs to do to get the freaking just get the deal done and get Baker in here. I don't care. Like, just get the guy in here. Like, figure out the money later. I got $1 billion and a brass set of balls. Go get this guy.
What about Jimmy Garoppolo?
I don't think he's gonna be healthy enough soon enough to make that deal happen. But if he got, let's say you get to the preseason and Darnold and Corral are just melting all over the place, I think Jimmy Garoppolo could be in play.
Would you rather have Garoppolo or Baker?
Trying to think if old Benny Max got any experience with either of those guys. No, he was in San Francisco 2005, but not really. Yeah, nothing really notable. Okay. Yeah, I think I would take Baker at plus 190, but I mean, I think if it's based on like who's on the roster right now, I think Darnold will beat out Corral. I just don't. These rookies are not like these rookie quarterbacks. This class in particular is going to have a very uphill battle.
There's a reason there was only one of them taking the first round.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, the Falcons took one, Desmond Ridder, in the 3rd round, right?
Yes.
Marcus Mariota or Desmond Ridder?
For me, I think.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you're really locked into this podcast.
Mariota.
A nice deep yawn as you.
Well, I told you, man. I got the kid keeping me up. And
I'm tired too. We'll wrap up.
3 hours of sleep in the past 4 days.
I think Mariota.
My voice, can you tell that I'm like raspy?
Well, that's not too bad. I think Mariota is a stone cold lock.
Yes, I agree with that.
Like, he played for, and not necessarily played well, but Arthur Smith coached him in Tennessee.
There's a reason Arthur Smith specifically went out and got Marcus Mariota.
Correct.
Because he's familiar with him. He's familiar with his skill set. He knows what he can do with him. He knows that, hey, look, I've got to do something right now. This is my stopgap quarterback. I'm going to bring Mariota in. I'm going to let him run the offense. And if he does it well, maybe I'll keep him around and let him be the starter in 2023. And if he doesn't, boom, we got Desmond Ridder ready to go.
I'm correctly being ripped in the chat for being a raging hypocrite for calling Breech out for like checking. Fair. Absolutely fair.
And also, there's a big difference. I am locked in. I know exactly what we're talking about. I haven't lost my train of thought. I just yawned. I mute myself when I. Well, if you were talking, I would have muted myself, but I yawned while I was talking, which is even more embarrassing. Like, I was making myself bored by what I was saying.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's horrible.
Fair. See, yeah, it's fair. He said, blatantly glancing over to look at Phil Mickelson. I love evil Phil, man. I love evil Phil. His beard. Take a little Phil, first round leader. Just get weird, Phil. Anyway, I agree. Mariota. I mean, I think all these competitions are just kind of obvious. Like, these teams are in weird spots and they're going to go with a veteran over the young guy if they can. And Mariota, like, when the Falcons did not want to trade Matt Ryan after they lost out on Deshaun Watson and the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. It turns out that was a blessing in disguise that they lost out on the Watson sweepstakes based on how it's going in Cleveland, because that roster really wouldn't be a lot better with Deshaun Watson there. Like, they're not a contender with Watson. Even with Watson, I don't think. They're really just like the Texans, and they would be giving away a ton of draft picks that are probably pretty high. But after they opened the gates for Matt Ryan to possibly get traded, he decided to take them up on it and go somewhere where the roster was much better in Indianapolis with a better chance to win. And the Falcons had to acquiesce to that. As such, they were just kind of, it was so late in the process, they were kind of jammed and just had to figure out how to best solve the situation. And Mariota is a pretty good gap quarterback. And they got Ridder with a reasonable pick, and maybe he can develop into something more. And I just don't know that he's ready to be a starter on that offense right now. It's just better to throw Mariota to the Wolves. And I think I just believe that's what they will do. Dom in the chat asked, we'll get one more in here. This is a good one. Dolphins, Tua or Stinky Tua or Mr. High Floor or low ceiling Teddy Bridgewater by the end of the season.
That's a tough one because Tua, nobody gets hurt more than Tua can Tua even last the whole season? I don't think that McDaniel would bench him because, you want to find out if he's your QB of the future, but Tua could very well get injured and Bridgewater could be the starter by the end of the season. I'm going to go with Tua, but I will be shocked if he lasts all 17 games.
I also would be shocked if he lasted the entire season. But I think it's possible that Mike McDaniel crafts an offense that makes it easy for Tua to get quick throws out to Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill underneath, and that eases the pressure on him to try and get vertical. So I would not want to bet on over 16.5 games for Tua. Or let's say over 15.5 games, as in, like he starts, but maybe the Dolphins are like, he sits week 17 because they make the playoffs, so whatever it is. I would definitely take the under on that because of the injury possibility and just the sort of the upside that a guy like Teddy Bridgewater offers, or not the upside, but like the safety that he offers, because he really doesn't have the upside.
This is true.
It's easy to see Teddy Bridgewater completing the short passes to Waddle and Tyreek too, and like that offense being like he's Mike McDaniel's Jimmy Garoppolo basically.
Yeah, and except a little bit more mobile. He's left-handed, which adds a little bit of that can throw defenses off a little bit. So I think that McDaniel knows Tua's skill set. He's not going to ask him to do anything he's not capable of. I think Tua could be good in McDaniel's system. That's why McDaniel went out and signed 17 running backs so they can run the offense he ran in San Francisco, except he's not going to have like the Deebo Samuel where you have a receiver getting crushed all the time. I mean, I'm sure Tyreek Hill's going to get the ball a lot, but McDaniel's going to do his best to make sure he's not getting killed like Deebo was out there last year.
Yeah, I think they're gonna. I mean, you look at the additions that they made, right? Like Teron Armstead, and then they got Chase Edmonds.
Loaded, underrated additions.
Yeah, I mean, they had a great offseason. Sony Michel, Raheem Mostert, that is those three backs. The addition of those three guys and Teron Armstead, plus what we've seen from a Mike McDaniel offense, leads me to believe that they want to be aggressive in terms of how much they run. And they believe their defense can be good enough to, I don't think they want to be, I mean, I think he wants to recreate what they did in San Francisco, where you run the ball a ton. You have a very stable of running backs, and then you allow play action and sort of the flow of your offense and how it, the design. So like the design of Kyle Shanahan's offense is such that, and all offenses are like this, but I mean, Shanahan specifically wants to do certain things to set up other things down the road. Like they have plays that are, bootleg play action plays that look like their run game that get Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle into wide open spaces. And if Mike McDaniel does that as well, like if he does what Kyle Shanahan did, like Deebo Samuel would catch the ball and he'd be like no one within 5 yards of him. Like that's what they want to do. And if it works for them in Miami, the way it worked in San Francisco, this offense can be lethal with a guy like Tua playing point guard, but also Teddy playing point guard if Tua struggles and can't stay healthy.
Yeah, and the Dolphins have a lot of weapons. We talked about the 49ers is Deebo Samuel, but when you're in Miami, look, you mentioned Jalen Waddle. They signed Cedric Wilson. That's an underrated signing.
Mike Gesicki,
and you mentioned Chase Edmonds, but also Raheem Mostert and Sony Michel. There's a bunch of guys back there that, like you said, Tua's the point guard. Getting all these guys the ball could work. They're not going to ask them to throw downfield a lot. It's put the ball in their hands. We're going to get 5 yards in every play.
Yep, exactly. All right, that's probably enough, right?
Yeah, it feels like enough.
Yeah, it feels like we've done enough. Yeah, feels like we've done enough. C+. I'm just kidding. All right, Breech, as always, buddy. Excellent work. Thanks for hanging out, fighting through illness. Wilson wouldn't do it. He's a coward.
He would be taking a nap.
Yeah, scared coward. Wouldn't show up. Wilson ain't played nobody. All right, that'll do it for the show. For Breech, I'm Brinson. We'll see you guys later.